My name is Craig Pera, and you are listening to Sex Afflictions and Porn Addiction. And today we're going to talk about why using the phrase "I get to," I'm not gonna leave you hanging. I'm gonna tell you what it is right up front. I get to, and I'm gonna give you an example of this in a minute versus, ugh, I gotta I gotta do this goddamn thing. I gotta go to the appointment. I gotta go here. I gotta do this. I gotta go that, right? There's no agency and control. You're not in charge. So we're gonna talk about why using the phrase "I get to" versus "I have to," "I must," "I'm compelled to," "I gotta," can have a significant impact on your life in some very important areas. And you're going to see that this technique hits from an identity perspective. It's literally like a way of life. It's literally like a lens through which you're experiencing the world, and in a powerfully impactful one, which is what I like about it so much. Also, it's an in the moment technique, and we're going to talk about that. It's an in the moment. It's a reframe. It's a trigger response plan. So there was something about this phrase "I get to" that clicked for me, and the click was it's a trigger response plan, meaning it's something that you do in the moment. Okay, so what are we talking about? What are we talking about, right? Um, Life is going to punch you in the face. Your Everyone listening to this is building a system to help you meet your needs proactively, instead of reactively, meaning you have to, this system that you're building has to withstand getting sick, feeling down, financial struggles, uh, emotional struggles, physical struggles, you and someone you life. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer here, but you are going to experience pain. There will be many, many challenges. And it's important to remember that. And success is how you manage those times. And this phrase is going to help you do that. Who do we got here? Hey, Lucas. Welcome, Rob. Yeah, I love this topic. Um, and this technique is a way. Oh, well, back up just a second. One of my favorite quotes, and there was a time in my life where this quote would have been offensive to me. And if it offends you, I am sorry. I say it only with compassion and love. But I want to acknowledge there was a time there was something that was just so offensive. Suffering, optional; pain, mandatory. Right? Where you're going to experience pain, suffering, optional. Like what? Oh, it's my fault, right? So so I get it. I absolutely get it. And for those brothers and sisters who've been following me for a long time, go back years. There is a, my thing is managing my chronic pain and managing my medical conditions and managing my physical conditions, and how to use mindfulness to manage pain. Well, I finally use mindfulness to manage pain. And despite the physical challenges being worse in some areas, um, feel better. I feel happier. I feel healthier. I am in less physical pain because I've learned, to pull the levers that don't make it go away, but change your relationship with it. And there is more and more documented evidence that mindfulness can help you reduce physical pain. And part of that is gratitude and perspective. So I want to talk about that. But here's where this came from. Here's where this came from. I have a tiny 8-pound dog named Milo, who I absolutely love. I was initially opposed to getting Milo, but he has since become, I think, sometimes that I love this thing more than anybody. There's such a safety. Now, listen, for you non pet owners, this sounds crazy. Of course, I mean it with all my deepest love, my wife and my children. And there's something safe about that 8-pound dog that allowed me to access a deeper love inside myself. It increased my capacity. My video game, the tube that the mana comes in, the hearts, if you will, more hearts, more like it increased the capacity. The dog helped me learn to love myself and in turn others uh, in a way that I hadn't experienced. So I love this little guy. And just like everyone else loved their pets. Well, my daughter had some friends over. The friends left chocolate on the ground. We walked into the dog eating chocolate. Now, Googling dog problems is a lot like Googling physical problems. I calmly find out where the vet is, call the vet. What should I do? Do this. I'm coming. And so I'm focused on being mindful as we get to the vet, but the mind is starting to wander to anger. Right? The mind is starting to wander towards blame. I really wanted to stay in control while I was driving. So but it blips, like flips, anger, like someone did this. Callousness and stupidity has hurt my dog. And those anger, right? It goes deep in me, brothers. Deep, deep, deep family of origin anger. Deep, deep, deep. So those parts are getting awakened. Those parts are getting awakened. And I'm focused, gotta get there. And in my mind, I'm ready to walk to the park the car and I'm going to be greeted by a team of people with the paddles in their hands, ready to start giving the dog, like I don't know what I thought. I don't know what I thought, but I have since learned it's important to anyway. I know a lot more about not to panic, and but there I was, and there I am waiting. Now I have to wait. Okay, I hadn't come around yet. I'm still getting angry. I do get a sense that no one's panicking and everyone seems to be okay. Now you go 5, 10 pages deep into Google, you start getting some more of the non-emergency type advice. Oh, okay. But now I'm sitting there all day, and I gotta spend my day there. That is my day of rest. That is my day for me. I built a life where I have the capacity to take the time for myself, to recharge. And that was my time. And I was getting angry. I was getting frustrated. And something flashed in my mind about a Steve Harvey video that I remember watching where he says, "You don't got to do anything." He goes, "You get to. You get to." And I said, I get to drive in my car that is safe to this place, which isn't that far away, and I can pay the bill. I get to do that. I get to take care of my dog. And once I get there and realize there's no panic, I get to take my dog home. I get to take him home. And there was someone else there who brought their beautiful animal in who I did not think that that dog was coming home. It was an elderly dog and heartbreaking. You could see the tears in people's eyes. I get to. right? I get to be there for him. I get to help solve the problem. I get to take him home. I get to celebrate, the fact that he came home. And when that happened, because as everyone here is learning or will learning, that anger in the moment isn't just in the moment, right? It goes back. It goes back. We're talking central nervous system training here. We're talking the foundation of our being, right? It always has an origin story. Always have an origin story. And for some of us, it's more significant than others. For all of us, it is impactful. It is impactful. And so anger, blame, frustration, want to take it out on somebody, want to lash out at somebody because that's going to make me feel better. That's going to help me not have to deal with the true problems. That's going to give me someone to focus my energy on and be mean to them and want to think, unhealthy things and want to be, anger, want to hurt, want to lash out. That's not healthy. Right? We've got parts meeting needs. And listen, sometimes anger is a call to action, and maybe someone here will be called upon to defend themselves or defend their family, but I have yet to see an example where it was well placed, certainly when it's out of control. So there's an origin story with whatever's happening to you in the moments when you're getting activated. And there is a lot going on that programming, right? It's the reaction that happens automatically, instantaneously, because that is the reaction that was trained. Right? That's not some magical outlier kind of event. Oh, this never happens. It is what happens when that happens. When those buttons are pushed, when those wounds are touched under those circumstances. When this wound is touched under these circumstances, this is going to be the reaction. This is going to be the reaction. And when you have a reaction where that's focused on resentment or deflecting your anger someplace else, and whenever you say that word, I gotta do this goddamn thing, or I gotta do this stupid assignment, whatever, whenever you say that, the in the moment response is, I get to do that assignment. I have the privilege and the ability, and it may not be whatever it is, but it is a gift that other people that they don't have. I have it. And may it be where I want to be? No, all those things being equal, but you get to. It literally, as a philosophy, is a half full, half empty perspective. And that's what makes this technique special, because it again, as you've seen, in the moment response. And in the moment response. And we all say it, right? We get frustrated. We all feel like there are aspects of our lives where we don't have agency and control. And the God's honest truth is, you do. Everything you're doing is a choice. It may be a habitual choice, right? Some people just disappear and never show up. Some people go under the grid or whatever, off the grid, never to be seen again. Some people stop doing whatever they were doing. I didn't have the courage to do that. I sabotaged it with out of control sexual behavior. And so, yes, a great teacher, George Collins, has a quote, you always have a choice. And I think I know that should be everyone's goal. How to exercise that choice, how to have agency and control. And when you're able to, in the moment, shift the perspective, the energy from denial, deprivation, subordination, domination, being controlled, a victim of circumstance, bag blowing in the wind, out of control, helpless, whatever, real feelings, really, really real feelings. This isn't about dismissing those. This isn't about shutting those down, because that presents its own set of problems. Because don't forget, that which you resist persists. That's what you resist persists. Yes, as Rob brilliantly summarizes in the chat, everything is a choice. And for those of you who've been paying attention to the parts work, it is a brilliant perspective to take whatever you put into that out of control behavior and drop into that like intentionality, right? Maybe what if it isn't out of control? What if there's another part that knows how to hijack the system, how to take over, and rob the other parts of their choices? That's one of the brilliant aspects of parts work. So yeah, awesome. And it's certainly an aspiration, right? I want to live where I always have a choice. And when habit dictates that choice, I want to use that a framework as an opportunity to create more choice. And so here's what this is. This is a ping pong. This is a reaction action. This is a trigger response plan. A trigger response plan is a series of actions that you execute in the moment to interrupt the result of the automatic instantaneous programming. Right? So when you experience that energy shift in your body from positive to negative, what if you so energy shift in the body from positive to negative, automatic thoughts, automatic feelings in the body, automatic action, right? So the action reaction is when you say I got to, I have to, or just something where you are not feeling not in control. You can shift that in the moment to I get to drive my car from here to there. Like I said, even having a car, right? That's something that I don't want to take that for granted. There's people out there hustling right now and maybe listening to this podcast, brothers just saving up for their first car and busting their ass on public transportation. My son's on public transportation and he sees the hustlers. Right? So I don't want to take it for granted. So I get to. And so not only is it an in the moment technique, but it is an identity. Chapter 2, Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is mandatory reading of this podcast. To be a member of this pack, you must read or listen to the book Atomic Habits. So so you've got identity, perspective, gratitude, and an in the moment shift when you feel rudderless, out of control, or doing something that you don't want to do. Yeah, try it. It's a really, really powerful technique. And for those of you listening to me live, I'm going to answer some questions right now and go to the chat. For those of you who are listening on the recording, feel free to stick around. and you can subscribe whatever channel you're on, and that way you get notified when I jump online. And now I can give some of these guys some feedback. All right, who do we got? What if you could live by reaction, but reaction with the better choice rather than the worst one? And I think you're onto something right there, Project Gnarly. In the trigger response plan, the protocols that you execute in the moment. Yeah, to break a habit, you have to make the right habit that meets the right need. Yes, yes, true. But it takes a little bit to get there. You've got to do something about that in the moment. And so you're absolutely correct. Your reaction, because you're not going to get rid of the reaction. You're not going to get rid of the trigger in that reaction, right? Certainly not short term, certainly not any chance without a ridiculously, for most of us, it's not going to happen, right? Not going to happen. There's no universe where you're never going to be triggered again. And so when you have that energy shift in the body, or for example, you think that thought, right? There's a couple of words that pop into my head, for example, when I'm having a conflict with my wife. Okay. I'm not proud of it. And, I share, I hesitate because, as some of you guys might know, when you share and be vulnerable, people use it, but I don't care, right? I can only be who I am. When, for example, there's conflict between my wife and I'll have this this reaction. I'll feel like this, like I'm the one down in the power dynamic. I feel small. I don't feel like an equal partner. She could be asking a question. That question could have energy around it, right? And there's no blame. There's no blame, but there is that energy shift that I need to be aware of, that I need to be mindful of. So for example, an example of, to point out why what you said is accurate. The reaction, right? That thought, right? Maybe someday it goes away, and it goes away most of the time. That's the God's honest truth. But occasionally, given the right set of circumstances, I'll experience that energy shift in the body. I'll have that thought, and that thought now is the better choice. That thought now is like the alarm bells. Ding, 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 ding. Whatever's going on here is about to go off the rails, and whatever you say, it must be kind. It must be kind. And if you can't muster the strength to do that, then that gives you a sense of where you're at. So how about you go in the other direction? How about you go in the other direction? So in the beginning, it is an action, it is a reaction, and then using your awareness of that trigger, of that energy shift. And there's 4 areas that guys track when they're going through the program now, and we've made a slight but important adjustment that we talk a lot about on the calls. And I'll tell you. So first is the trigger. What is the event, external, internal, whatever's causing that energy shift in the body from positive to negative? Okay. Then what was the automatic thought? What was the automatic thought? What's new is, how does that trigger and thought feel in your body? What do you notice? What happens when physiologically, what happens? And listen, that's so important, because we are treating a physiological condition. This is in the body. It's an in the body condition. And so we need a body solution. We need an in the body solution. So that physical, if you know that you're not going to get rid of, you're going to have that negative thought, Well, that negative thought is now on a list of, like, whenever that negative thought occurs, I step back. I act, I react in a way, because I know how. Not only do I know the thought, I know how it feels in my body. And so whenever you're getting activated, right? Like, just like, no judgment, nobody's fault, whose fault, their fault, your fault, nobody's fault, anybody's fault. Forget about that. Whenever you feel activated, whenever your central nervous system goes into a fight, flight, or freeze response, which is in essence what every negative thing that's happening to you is falling into one of those three categories. This is a study of your central nervous system to hijack it, if you will, um, to use your awareness of the trigger and the thought and how it feels in your body to drive positive action. So that was a very long-winded way of saying you are spot on. Love it. Great, great, great way you're thinking about it. Yeah, so this, you always have a choice, right? Yeah, whatever. Like, okay, explain to me then why I keep doing what I'm doing. It doesn't feel like a choice. Doesn't feel like a choice. And so that's obviously, really, really, um, you know, I get it. I absolutely get it. And it's a like a destination, and it's awakening to the reality, that given the right set of circumstances, right? No, giving the wrong set of circumstances, this bad thing happens. Given the right set of circumstances, this happens. To make the right habit that meets the right need. So it starts, before you get to identity and self care, self love, and it's that in the moment. It's just like Project Gnarly says, that action reaction. Yeah, great point about the choice. This is how to exercise that choice, right? And so let me grossly oversimplify. Step one, I use when I get triggered and have negative thoughts, I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna do something else. That's gonna prompt me to. And listen, what's really, really cool is that's what it is. I mean, the more you dial into it, the more you learn from it, it becomes a call to action. It becomes a sign of dysregulation. It becomes a sign of you're off. It becomes a sign of blind spots. Becomes a sign of learning opportunities. And whenever there is conflict, it is the site of a deeper wound. It is the result, the deeper wound. It is the strong anger reaction. Bigger the anger, deeper the wound. So back to what you're talking about, using your awareness to drive that positive action. Yeah, good. All right, let's see. Is this method applicable? Hey, Titus, is this method applicable when one feels like someone utterly defeated and choose to act out, driven by powerful entitlement, deliberately using escaping behavior? It certainly sounds like it. It certainly sounds like it. Obviously, I don't know. Obviously, you got to see your own therapist. Yet what I'm reading in the chat sounds to be alignment. One of the most interesting aspects of the parts work for me early on was this notion of assuming intentionality, meaning assuming that a part of me, as ugly as that behavior might have been, as hurtful as that behavior might have been, as terrible as that behavior might have been, there is a part meeting a need. There is a part meeting a need. And when I started to understand, like, well, what do you mean a part's meeting a need? Like, what do you, this is like disease. This is bad. This is, dark evil. This is, sinful. It's wait, say that again. Say that again. And so I started to think about the and listen, as ridiculous as this sounds, I started to think about what were the positive attributes of my behaviors. What needs are these behaviors meeting? And it began a really powerful journey that's had a massive impact on my life and the lives of so many of my clients. In the book, guys, is No Bad Parts by Dr. Richard Schwartz. No Bad Parts by Dr. Richard Schwartz. It's a great book that introduces the concept of parts work, and you see it from the scientific perspective. So, this feels like it's one of these things that a few people felt organically, it made sense, and they built this model, and then the science is, in really neat alignment. If anyone has seen the Pixar movie Inside Out, that movie in part is a reflection of the concept of parts work. Part of you wants to numb, cope, and escape in this way. And it's a fascinating journey to look at it from the parts perspective. And so, if anyone has any questions, please let me know in the chat. Yeah, great job encouraging others, Rob. You're a good man, Charlie Brown. Love this little community supporting each other. Yep. English isn't even as Lucas's first language. Way to go. All right. Any questions before we wrap up? Put them in the chat. Let me know if you have any questions. There are no dumb questions. Please, they're great questions. Do you practice parts work every day? Rob in the chat asks if I practice parts work every day. Yes. Yes. Here's my answer. Or I'll say it another. Do I experience stress every day? Yes. Yes. Do I yeah, no, like that's it. That's it. And what's interesting too about the parts work is, well, anyway, I don't want to overcomplicate things. Yeah, Angela asked, how do I know if I'm ready to start dating again? Angela, I have to be honest, that's outside my bailiwick, and a local therapist would be best able to guide you. I can share, though, generally my experience is, if the goal is to create intimacy and connectedness, eventually the time comes when that is only going to manifest in the relationship. There's no other way to work on those issues. You can read about them, you can take books about them, you can do lessons about them, take classes about them, but it's not until you experience it. So my advice generally, and again, this isn't advice for you because it's so many variables. my advice generally, though, over the years has been, um, move. No, I don't want to give it. I don't want to give it because it's different. It's different. I'm thinking couples. See, that's why I said not my area of expertise, because I was ready to answer from a couple's perspective. So, no, I like to know my lane and what I'm good at and where my strengths are. And it's a tricky question because here's a, and this isn't why you start a relationship, but people who are married live longer. There's something about relationships that, make us healthier. And we're more motivated, and there's a whole bunch of interesting research on that. So, good question. I wish I could be more helpful. Sorry, Angela. All right. But do I practice parts work every day? I absolutely do. I absolutely do. There is always there's a part that's getting activated. There's an energy shift in my body from positive to negative. It could be frustrated about something regarding work, or the website, or someone that we're, the list of problems at medical, physical, emotional, which is really physical. The list is, I don't need to tell you guys. And so the parts lens has given me a way of life, a beautiful, loving, empathetic way to understand these different parts of me that get activated. Now I know why, and now I understand, the protective nature. So it's I do think about them every day. All right. Last question. What should be an approach to this part of personality that is responsible for coping, numbing, and escaping? Be like a parent, friend, coach, kind. Uh, I know, harsh. I would remove that word absolutely. And here's my relationship with that part of me that was responsible for coping and numbing. I did this exercise, and I don't think I'm ever going to forget it. I'm going to um, never forget this experience. And so the exercise is a called the Protector Awards Ceremony. Meaning, in this specific case, it was in my mind a an award ceremony for my addict part. For my addict part. And not what he did, but what he tried to do. What his role was. And how he helped, what he was coping, numbing, and escaping from. And it was in that moment that I realized that that part of me kept me alive in some very dark times. It gave me all of the positive attributes, all of the things that we've talked about, um, and the role that this part played in coping, numbing, and escaping. To use your exact words, now I'm talking about me. Now I'm talking about me. Um, there was a moment in that meditation where I fell to my knees. I don't know if I was sitting on the chair. I don't know, being dramatic, getting into it, but it was really deep because there was a sense of appreciation. There was sense of an appreciation and for the role that that part played. Not, you know, putting all the negative aside for purposes of this, the role that this part truly played in helping me navigate some really, really difficult and dark times, many of them of my creation. But I couldn't deny the reality that this part was serving a purpose. This part was meeting a need. So the approach, to bring it back to the question, the approach that I took in better understanding this part, and this is after, lots of back and forth voice dialogues, going way back when, lots of work with therapists, and an evolution of the way I've come to think about this part is the part that responsible for coping, numbing, and escaping in my situation. This, for me, this part deserved praise. This part deserved recognition. And it's almost like, we'll get to the consequences later, part. We'll get to the consequences later. But to truly understand the role that you played in helping me numb, cope, and escape, and to meet my broken needs and the broken ways that this part of me, would hijack the system and would take over. There was a lot of power for me in honoring that part and loving that part. Because remember, how you feel about a part is how you feel about yourself. So if there's a part that you hate, then there's your roadmap. You got something that you got to work on, because that ain't gonna cut it. Because that ain't gonna cut it. And so, what approach should you have? The approach that I loved, and I see you getting at it. You're getting at it, and then there's the harsh, which I get. And so the invitation is to do the exact opposite of harsh. Parent, friend, coach, kind, because here's the interesting that happens. So in the internal family system, the part that numbs, copes, and escapes, for example, using porn, the addict part would be considered a protector. A firefighter is another term for it. It's a part that, like there's an emergency, hijack the system, take over, numb, cope, and escape. Back to normal. But shame and blah blah, all those negative consequences. But that part again is meeting a need, and so when you uncover, so you got this big strong protector, right? Addict can hijack the system under, with incredible amount of effort, incredible amount of energy that many of you have given to sobriety, so so much. Despite that, right, this part is so powerful. Bigger the protector, deeper the wound. That's been a wild formula for folks, is that these protectors are so strong because, in the language of IFS, the exiles are so wounded. These exiles are so wounded. So if you have not begun parts work or know anything about parts work, download the book No Bad Parts by Dr. Richard Schwartz. You can search for some IFS guided meditations on YouTube. Some IFS guided meditations on YouTube. And, so many great resources. All right. Thank you so, so much for joining me. Embrace your power of choice. Feed the right wolf inside you.